Hello everybody, welcome back once again. I've got another Triangle Strategy guide, I guess, for you. So this is actually going to be the first character-specific guide that I'm going to do. And I'm going to start with my favorite character, Archibald, or Ramsay Bolton. Uh, he's just amazing. I think that the most difficult enemies really to deal with in the game, aside from like the bosses, are the mages. Mages, usually have some sort of area effect ability, and they've got really good range. And so, my opinion, the best way to deal with them is to outrange them, and Archibald is the one that's able to do that. I believe it's at level 27 he gets an inescapable arrow, and the range here is 1 to 12. That's far more range than any enemy mage has. Yeah, so like this Thunderbird 0 to 4. So like they gotta they have to get quite a bit closer than we do with Archibald. So that's kind of why I really like Archibald. Again, I just think that, again, aside from like the actual bosses, the mages are the biggest issues to deal with. So usually how I like to set up, or how I've had Archibald set up for a very long time actually, is with speed bracelet and a strength bracelet. I actually, when I first got Archibald has terrible movement when you first get him. He eventually gets a weapon upgrade, and I'll go through the weapon upgrades here in a little bit as well, but that'll actually bump up his movement up to 4. But it starts at 3, which is pretty rough. And so for a little while I had a movement, is it the movement bracelet? Let me... This freaking thing. There we go. I think it's on somebody right now. Yeah, movement bangle it's called. So that can kind of tide you over until you get the weapon skill unlocked to bring his movement up to 4. And so, with that said, he can be a little bit of he can be pretty tough to use early on in the game. Although that said, I think I still actually used him quite a bit in most of the battles. But anyways, all right, let's talk his stats. So he's got an okay strength stat. I mean, that's not phenomenal. Okay physical defense as well. His magic attack is garbage, but I mean, if you're using, really anything that's going to use a magic attack, it would be like the ranged ice stone, ranged, basically the elemental stones. But you shouldn't be using those with him. For one thing, his magic attack is too low to make them useful, but also, like, why would you bother, right? He's got a bow, and the bow range is really good. So magic defense is okay as well. He's most of the archers are kind of like middle ground when it comes to physical and magic defense. They're not amazing, but they're also not extremely low on magic defense like the tank characters like Eridor and Flanagan. So again, kind of middle of the road when it comes to defense. His luck stat's not so great either. Only a 22, but that's all right. Anyways, so his accuracy is really good though, 70, and his speed is actually pretty bad. But that's why I've got the speed bracelet on him. So that's bringing it up to 27 from 24 is his base speed. So he is definitely one of the slower characters in the game as well. I mean, that's almost like mage speed. But again, you can use like speed. Obviously, the first tier of the speed accessories is going to be like a speed ring, and that'll give you like 1 speed, and basically you just upgrade as the game progresses. It'll go ring, and then amulet, and then bracelet. Sorry. And also, I do actually like having a little bit of extra strength on him as well. I don't remember ever having like accuracy problems. So I don't think that you really need to have like an accuracy accessory instead. But evasion, I don't know. His evasion's not good, but you really aren't going to be. I mean, you don't really want to ever count on this stat anyway. But his is not, in the top tier of evasion either. So Not something to really be, again, counting on. Anyways, alright, so let's get into the skills. Edged arrow here. Deal physical damage to a single enemy, ignores their defense. This is a great tank buster. You know, the shield bearers, the pikemen, they've got typically really good defense. Some of the bosses have really good defense as well. Actually, most of the bosses have really good defense as well. So edged arrow can be, you know, really good skill to use against them. The only problem with the edged arrow is you can have some line of sight issues. Basically, you need a clear path in between you and the target, because the edged arrow doesn't really arc like some of the other shots, and like the regular bow attack does. So that can be a bit of a problem. But sniper, deal greater damage the further the enemy is. Now, this is so minor that you're not really gonna notice it. You know, and also it's not usually worth moving. So, like, let's just say you're not at maximum range from the target that you want to shoot, right? And you want to move. It's actually not really worth, because of the way that basically if you don't move your character, your turn comes around faster. So, again, this isn't really... It's great because it's just a passive, right? Like, oh, okay, this is cool, but I wouldn't stress it too much, right? Like, and the damage is so minor that... again, it's not actually worth like moving to get to maximum range by any means. So I guess just keep that in mind. Arrow spray. I actually rarely use this. This skill I only used a handful of times throughout the course of the game. You know, I suppose if enemies are right up in your face, then go ahead and maybe use this. But it's very rare that I actually ended up using that. And the power's not that great. I mean, 171. His regular attack is, you know, 229. I mean, granted, it's potentially, like, what is it, like possibly 7 targets, if I've got the range correct, or like the range correct on it. But the enemies usually don't line up that well for this. Maybe you might get lucky and get 3, maybe sometimes 4, but it's pretty rare that that's going to end up working out. So. Anyways, alright, moving on here. Let's go on to his next passive, which is Second Sight. It says increases the range of your normal attacks by 1. And this is where things start to get really good for Archibald. You know, again, I think that just because of the issue with mages in the game, and by the way, I should say, I always play it on hard. I did breeze through a couple of playthroughs on some of the easier difficulties, but when I'm kind of doing, I guess the way that I speak in terms of strategy and stuff is with hard mode in mind. You know, the other easier difficulties, like, none of this stuff really matters, and you're just gonna breeze through the game. But hard mode is where you know, it actually does get pretty difficult, and some of this stuff actually starts to matter. But anyways, again, you know, biggest benefit with the archers is their range, and somebody like Rudolph, for instance, doesn't have any way to increase his range, whether a passive or like weapon skills, which is kind of a shame, and why I think Archibald kind of outclasses him. Archibald doesn't have I usually call them like CC effects, like crowd control, so like sleep, like Rudolph does. But I think that his other, and especially Inescapable Arrow, completely makes up for it. This ability is amazing. Sticky Arrow, I barely ever used. It says lower a single enemy's evasion for 3 turns, then gain the use of 1 more command. However, you can only move once. Again, this rarely got used. I mean, this is good against, especially against, I mean, some of the bosses are pretty evasive, but also the rogues in the game are pretty evasive as well. So this would have been good, but I'll be honest, I just rarely used it. I was counting on Inescapable Arrow like 99% of the time. So, you know, maybe for a time this would have been pretty useful. And also, I mean, check the ranges 2 to 4. So I mean, you know, not phenomenal by any means. But again, so this is the ability that makes Archibald, in my opinion, probably I think it's fair to say that he's broken. So it's expensive. 3 TP is you know, nothing to be super excited about, but the power is 274, which is really good. I mean, obviously by far his strongest ability. His basic attack is 229, and this is 274. I mean, edged arrow can get pretty close to the damage, right, because it's ignoring defense. But 274 is amazing. But the range is 1 to 12. I mean, that says it all right there. The height is 15 plus minus 15. It's almost the case that it doesn't matter where you're standing and you'll be able to use this on something, but not quite. There are some maps where the height can become an issue as well, but most of the time it's not. I mean, I just love this ability. So it says release an arrow that deals physical damage to a single enemy, even if they're hidden behind an obstacle. And that's probably the other great part of it. It's not just the range; it's that it doesn't matter where the enemy is actually standing, because you don't have any problems with like the way that the arrow arcs. It always reminds me of like an orbital strike from, I don't know, it's like Halo games or something, right? Where, you know, it just comes down from the sky. So he basically shoots it like kind of straight up into the air, and then it just, you know, hits him from above. Great ability. I love it. Really cool animation as well on it. And a great way to take out mages. Last ability here, I should say this is a passive that he gets, and this is when you do your final upgrade or promotion. It says chance to instantly kill an enemy when their HP is at 50% or below. I mean, take a character that is already amazing because of inescapable arrow and make him like even better by being able to instantly kill when the HP is below. So basically at the end of the game, and it's not always the case, but well, I should say it's not the case with bosses. Most bosses are immune to instant death, but most of the enemies in the game have a 50% chance to be instantly killed if they're below 50% HP. Combine that with the fact that you can knock them down below half, especially the mages, with inescapable arrow. And it's usually 2 shots of this, and you can take, you know, a mage out. Which is, again, why I absolutely love this guy. Piercing arrow, I'll be honest, I rarely use this. I think I can probably count on one hand how many times I use piercing arrow, but it says charge for 1 turn, and that's why. I don't like the charge moves, because it really takes probably somebody else to help him out, to finish it up. Now, I mean, Archibald does need basically a dedicated partner, which I use Julio all the time. With him to kind of keep powering him up, you know, right, and keep him with enough TP to keep using inescapable arrow. But so somebody like you know, Benedict works with piercing arrow, right? He can Archibald can start the charge, and then Benedict can use now, and that will move his turn, you know, right after his, and then he'll just finish, you know, the piercing arrow charge. You know, straight line of 10 squares and ignores defense. There are times where this works out really, really well. I can think of a couple of battles specifically, especially that one, well, I guess it's not just one, but there's 2 of them. It's kind of like towards the end of the game where you're fighting Hyzant out on the plains, and there's a lot of cavalrymen, and one of the times you're fighting Claris, and this can work out really well. But the thing with that, though, is also the AI is somewhat smart about not lining up, so it can be kind of tough to get this to, you know, work in your favor, or to be very effective too. So, and then on top of that, it costs 4 TP. So, you know, pretty steep cost, which again is why I actually really prefer to use inescapable arrow. So I'll just do a really quick. Whoops, I just took him out of the battle here, but I wanted to just show kind of like one or more of the combos with him. So I always basically use Julio with Archibald, and then I've always got Benedict rolling around with me as long as, you know, he's available. There are points in the game where he's not, but Medina works with him really well also, and then Azana excuse me. So Izana can use an ability called Rite of Tempest, and we'll go over that in a little bit. But that actually increases the damage that Archibald does. So let's start this. I'm actually just going to do a quick kind of like showcase like his abilities and why they're so good. So this is Fort Defense. This actually is like a level 45 mental mock battle. So we'll probably do maybe a little bit more damage than normal, but I'm going to start out here. I actually have Izana equipped with a Vanguard Scarf so that she'll act first. And the reason for that is so that I can use Rite of Tempest, and that's going to increase Archibald's damage. Alright, so let the enemies take their turn. Now, usually what I do here with Benedict is use a twofold turn on Archibald.
This will serve well.
Not always, but that's how I start off with a lot. We're gonna get this guy's gonna zip down, and you can see, I mean, even a level 45 Hawk. I guess these guys are level 43. Even those guys are almost half-shotting Archibald. And again, I mean, it is what it is, right? He's an archer. He's not a tank. He doesn't have the physical defense like that the tanks do. All right, so usually what I do here is I'll do a Moment of Truth. Sometimes I'll do Inheritor instead, but let's take a look here actually with at his stats. Whoops, why does this always happen? There we go. Nope, still not. There we go. Jesus. Sometimes there's some weird wonkiness with these menus, but all right. Anyway, so his strength is 56 right now. I'm actually gonna buff up his strength just a little bit. It's not gonna. The problem with this game and the way that the stats work is the buffs don't scale throughout the game, and that means that basically every passing level the buffs get weaker and weaker. But the real benefit here is to using Moment of Truth is not only the strength buff but also granting the TP. Which is, again, why I actually always basically have these two together, Yulio and Archibald. Medina works as well. She can restore TP as well, but I really like Yulio because he doesn't take items to do that. All right, so this is inescapable arrow. So this is the range. You can see this. I mean, I can hit almost anything on the map because of where I'm standing. And again, keep in mind that the farther you go out, the more damage you'll do. So like this hawk bow, if I were to hit it, I'd knock him down to 179. This one I'd hit, I guess I'd knock him down to 183. Oh, it's because that guy's a bowman, and that's not a fair comparison. Yeah, this guy 180, 179. I mean, look at you can see like. These guys are probably one tile. Like if I counted this out, they're probably one tile away, right? So that's why here I would do 180 to this guy, but I'd do 179 to that. Again, that's why that passive just isn't that impressive. So again, I wouldn't say it's worth really stressing over. But here I can knock this battle mage down to half, so I'm gonna do that. And then let's also. So, because I use twofold turn, I actually have one more turn. Now, this is just his regular bow range, which again is still pretty solid. But, alright, so that's his first turn. Now, one of the other things that you can do here, and what I usually do is do like an in tandem. Otherwise, you can use, I wanted to say Izana, but her name is Medina. Otherwise, you can use Medina and use like fast-acting medication, right? And that would move up Archibald's turn. But I usually don't do that. I usually do in tandem here. And so that'll be... Yeah, I'm just going to end her turn.
Allow me.
So that, unfortunately, though, that means he's only got 2 TP. For a long time, and this is partly because Yulio now is just a little bit too fast. And also, I mean, one of the other things that I could have done instead of doing the what is this ability? Moment of Truth. Instead of using Moment of Truth to only give Archibald 1 TP, I could have used Inheritor to give him all of it. And if I would have done that, he actually would have 3 TP right now, so that he'd be able to use Inescapable Arrow again. But one of the other things that you can do is just use a Battle Cry. Again, I don't like this this route, I really should have. I should have given Archibald all of Yulio's TP, because that buff, the moment of truth, again, at this point in the game, isn't good. It isn't really good enough to be using anymore. That's not true. It's not that it's not good enough to use. It's that in this specific scenario, it would have been better, because then I wouldn't have had to use Battle Cry. So I'll just actually do this. And there you have it. So that not only did I actually have enough damage to kill him, but that instant death procced as well. So that guy was just gonna get erased regardless. But so now I'm sure I'm probably just gonna get wrecked here. But I'll show you the kind of better combo to kind of start out with, like. Yeah, there you go.
Now then.
Yeah. So that's, and by the way, that's hard mode. You can't really play super aggressive like Archibald out front like that. There's times where it was we played hard mode. It was like sometimes it was like a lot of attempts to get battles just right, and also it was because I was trying to do all of these battles without having any deaths, and it was a fun challenge, and that's one of the reasons why I kept with the game.
My time is now.
But anyways, all right. So let's start out in the same way here. So we'll do Rite of Tempest, and I'll just kind of show you how this works out instead, and kind of like the better way to do this.
There is no mercy on
Alright,
the
so let's
battlefield.
do again. We'll do the twofold
We
turn.
must move fast.
This guy flies down. Oh, missed.
I'll take it from here.
All right, so Yulio. And actually, I don't even need to move. So that's one of the other great things about Inheritor is it's got a little bit more range. So that fills him up. Now it's a little bit redundant, right? Because now that Archibald's getting his turn, he would restore 1 TP. Although, actually, no, that's not the case. It's not actually the case because this is the first turn. But yeah, anyways, all right, let's do this. So I'll inescapable arrow this guy, drop him below half. His turn comes up again. Well, he gets 2/3, right?
Whatever it
And so now I would do, again, usually, anyway, I would do in tandem here. I could just use Medina's fast acting to do the same thing, but let's just pretend. Let's pretend that she's not here. Alright, so there you have it. And now Archibald is at 3 TP still. And again, that's because I used Inheritor instead of Moment of Truth. And so I'd be able to knock this guy down. And that instant death procced again. But, alright, so I'll head out after, now, and I'll just go do the, get wrecked, Archibald. Poor guy. I'll show you the weapon upgrades and stuff.
My time is now.
Oops, wrong button. System. Wait, what? Sometimes. There it is. Alright, so we have to retreat first, and then I can back out. There we go. Cancel that mock battle. We're not playing around. Alright, let's go into this here. Where is Archibald? There he is. Okay, so basically, and again, I'm going to speak mostly about hard mode. I think that if you're playing the easier difficulties, most of this stuff just, again, doesn't really matter. I think you could probably do whatever you wanted and you'd be just fine. But alright, so his first row here, you've got a weapon damage up, so it says increases weapon potency by 5 to deal greater damage. I was never really impressed with these upgrades, and I didn't really think prioritizing them was all that important. But, you know, going from weapon rank 2 to 3 actually is 10 potency instead of just 5, so I don't know, I guess that's something to think about. But so he gets an accuracy, actually it's here, let's start here again. So you got weapon potency, and then you've got max HP by 10. That doesn't seem like much, but the way that this game is kind of set up, these actually kind of make a bit of a difference. I don't know that it's enough to prioritize them. but it's something, right? There's no real stat bloat, I would say, and it doesn't really get bad, towards the end of the game either. But anyways, all right. So you've got accuracy, then you've got speed, and then you've got Raging Wind's physical damage up. So now, the way that weapon upgrades work in this game, or because of the way that they work, you really want to plan out how you're going to do your upgrades, because your first upgrade is probably going to only cost 2 materials, and then the next one is probably going to cost 4, and then like 8, and it gets crazy high, and that applies to each row. So basically, I don't know, like not 50% of the way through the game, probably like 40% of the way through the game, you'll start getting your weapon rank 2 upgrades, and then the upgrade cost kind of starts over again. So it'll be really cheap for your first upgrade, and then it'll gradually get more and more expensive, right? Until you get into your tier 3 stuff. So keep that in mind. My opinion, as far as weapon upgrade order, you really want to go with speed first, because speed, in my opinion, is the most important stat in the game. Very similar to really any other tactical game. The faster your characters are and the faster you're getting turns, or the more often your turns are coming up, the more advantage you've got in combat. And the problem is Archibald starts out so slow. He might actually start with a 23 for speed, which he might, and I can't quite remember, but he might literally be the slowest character in the entire game. But yeah, so get that right away. Then I would upgrade his accuracy. The Raging Wind's physical damage up, this really isn't worth getting until probably last, because you probably won't have Azana, and she's the only one that can kind of like generate the Raging Winds if the map doesn't already have it. So keep that in mind. So what I would probably do is go speed, accuracy, then I'd probably go weapon potency, and then the HP, and then I'd finish off with Raging Winds and go with the physical damage up last. All right, so then once you start getting into weapon rank 2, and I forgot what the material was. I think it's like, is it maybe spider silk or something like that? Probably not that important, but once you get into the weapon rank 2 stuff, the first thing that you should buy is his movement, increased movement by 1. Having him only with 3 movement is terrible, and it's really a chore getting him around. So definitely get that first, and just bring his movement up to kind of basically where everybody else is at. There's a couple of people that have a little bit better, like Roland, but generally characters have about 4 movement. So again, bring him up in line with everybody else. Here's the next upgrade. It's probably a toss-up between the accuracy and the critical damage up. Honestly, I would probably go with accuracy, because critical damage doesn't matter if you're not hitting things, and so I would probably, stress that. Next up, then I probably would go with the critical damage up. The thing with the archers, though, is it's sometimes hard to get behind enemies, so you're not going to be, generating the automatic crits like some of the other characters can. Now, it's not to say that it never happens, but sometimes. But it is nice to have to have your crits doing a little bit of extra damage. So, again, I probably go, movement, then accuracy, then I might go weapon potency, but it's kind of a toss-up. I'd either go the potency or the crit damage up as the third upgrade, and then again either do weapon damage next, and then I'd probably go with the HP last. And that's the great thing about archers and Archibald specifically, since he's got such good range, you're probably not really going to be taking hits that much. So the little bit of HP that you'll get from these weapon upgrades doesn't really matter that much. And then really towards the end of the game, that's when you start hitting your I think it's like chapter 11. I think chapter 11 is where you first start getting your tier 3 weapon upgrades. Definitely the first thing that I would buy is the normal attack range +1. Increasing your range as an archer is massive. And it really, makes you a little bit more flexible in where you can be standing, right? So you can even be safer. I mean, I would bring up his passive, but you know, I've just never been that impressed by that. So the next thing I would probably do is weapon damage 2, or weapon damage up 2, and then I'd finish out with piercing arrow because, again, I rarely use piercing arrow. I just don't think that skill is great. Generally speaking, I don't really like the charge abilities in the game. So that is pretty much it. You know, I really like Archibald. He's definitely my favorite character. It was funny too because when I first got him, I was like, "Well, what? I thought this guy was supposed to be so good," and he's just, you know, not that great until 27. And then once you get that inescapable arrow, it's just a game changer. So again, really like him, and you know, you could probably do some other things with his gear as well. I know early on when I didn't have, like, you know, enough, probably like speed rings and stuff, although I don't know, I probably would have put the speed ring on him right away and prioritized that, but I did try some other things on him as well. Oops, why can't I, there it is. I always navigate these menus incorrectly, but you'd think I'd learn after playing this game for like 300 hours, but nope, I haven't. So I actually used the red anklet on him for a while. It's kind of nice because he does get quite a lot of kill shots. So it says increases strength and magic attack for 3 turns when you defeat an enemy. The problem though was that once I started using Yulio all the time, Yulio was really providing this buff anyway. So it made it you know, really redundant. Resurrection Earring, you know, I never used because I did basically every single battle without dying. Endurance, I mean, yeah, that's not very good. You could maybe make a case for the golden pinky ring because he gets a lot of kill shots, but I usually when I was using that, it was for mental mock battles, and I usually had Serenoa doing it, and hawk diving stuff. So yeah, I don't think I would really recommend that. And then again, I think the great thing about him is you know, he stays fairly safe the entire game just because of the nature of being an archer, and so you don't have to worry so much about, you know, magic defense, you know, or just base defense, right? You really just want to pump this guy's speed and make him, you know, as fast as you can, so you can be inescapable arrowing everything forever. So that's going to be it for this one. As always, hope the guide was helpful, and thanks for watching.